The truth about royal power will surprise you. Royal power has always seemed like the ultimate prize, an untouchable position above all others, where one individual commands nations and shapes history. From the outside, it looks like a life of certainty, privilege, and control. But the deeper you go into history, the more that image begins to crack. Because the truth is, royal power was never truly secure. It was something that had to be built, protected, defended, and constantly re-earned. At the heart of every monarchy was a simple but powerful idea: control. Control over land, over people, over resources, and over the future itself. But control is never absolute. It depends on systems, armies to enforce it, advisors to guide it, and citizens to accept it. Without these, even the most powerful king was just a man sitting alone on a throne. Think about what it really meant to be a king. Every decision carried enormous weight. Declaring war could bring glory or destroy an entire nation. Raising taxes could strengthen the economy or push people into rebellion. Choosing the wrong ally could shift the balance of power and invite invasion. Kings were expected to be perfect leaders in an imperfect world, and any mistake could echo across generations. And yet, for all their responsibility, kings were often isolated. Surrounded by people who wanted something, power, influence, wealth, it became difficult to know who to trust. Loyalty was never guaranteed. Even those closest to the throne could become threats. History is filled with stories of betrayal that came not from distant enemies, but from within the royal circle itself. Brothers fought brothers for crowns, sons rebelled against fathers, queens plotted behind the scenes, trusted advisors became rivals. In some cases, kings were overthrown not because they were weak, but because someone else wanted more power. The palace, which appeared grand and secure, was often one of the most dangerous places in the kingdom. But royal power wasn't only challenged from within, it was constantly tested from the outside. Rival kingdoms, ambitious generals, and rising leaders were always looking for opportunities. A strong king had to think not just about ruling, but about defending what he ruled. Power attracted attention, and attention brought danger. This is where strategy became essential. The greatest rulers were not just strong, they were smart. They built alliances through marriage, negotiated peace through diplomacy, and used influence as much as force. Some kings expanded their power without ever stepping onto a battlefield, while others relied on military strength to secure their place in history. But no matter the method, survival always depended on adaptation. And then there's the role of fear. Fear was one of the most effective tools of royal power. A ruler who was feared could maintain control even in uncertain times. But fear came with its own risks. A king who ruled only through fear often created resentment, and resentment has a way of growing quietly until it becomes impossible to contain. On the other hand, a ruler who relied too much on kindness risked being seen as weak. Finding the balance between respect and fear was one of the greatest challenges any monarch faced. But perhaps the most underestimated force in all of this was time. Time changes everything. It shifts values, reshapes societies, and redefines what people expect from their leaders. A system that worked in one era might fail completely in another. Monarchies that once thrived began to struggle as new ideas emerged, ideas about freedom, equality, and the rights of individuals. These ideas didn't just challenge kings, they changed the very foundation of power. The rise of democracy was one of the biggest turning points in history. It introduced a new concept that power should come from the people, not from birthright. This idea spread across nations, slowly transforming the role of monarchs. Some resisted and lost everything. Others adapted and survived. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. Despite losing absolute control, many royal families remained. They changed their roles, shifting from rulers to representatives. They became symbols instead of decision-makers, figures of unity instead of authority. And in doing so, they discovered a different kind of power, one that didn't rely on force, but on influence. Modern royal power is subtle, but it's still real. A single appearance can inspire millions. A statement can bring attention to global issues. A tradition can unite a nation. This kind of power is not about control, it's about connection. And in some ways, it can be even more lasting than the power of kings from the past. But even now, the challenges remain. The world is more connected than ever, and public opinion can change in an instant. Royal figures must navigate a complex landscape of expectations, scrutiny, and responsibility. They must remain relevant in a world that no longer depends on them in the same way. And once again, their power depends on something fragile: trust. If there is one lesson that history teaches us, it is this: power is never permanent. It can rise quickly and fall even faster. It can be strengthened by unity and destroyed by division. It can be admired, feared, respected, or rejected. And no matter how strong it seems, it always depends on the people who believe in it. So when you think about royal power, don't just imagine crowns and thrones. Think about the pressure behind the decisions, the tension behind the alliances, and the uncertainty behind the authority. Think about the individuals who carried that power, who had to make impossible choices while the world watched. Because the greatest truth about royal power is not how it was displayed, but how it was sustained. It wasn't just about ruling others, it was about understanding them. It wasn't just about holding power, it was about knowing when it could slip away. And it wasn't just about wearing the crown, it was about surviving everything that came with it. And that is what makes royal power so fascinating, so complex, and so surprising. It was never just a position, it was a constant battle, one that only a few could win, and even fewer could hold on to. In the end, the crown was never the true source of power. The real power was always something far less visible and far more difficult to keep.